Hello again. So this video is specific for the Calculus 2 students. You should have already completed the first video where we discussed the general nature of the class. Asynchronous, that everything will be organized through Blackboard, YouTube, and your QCC email. You get your weekly email, everything is set up for the week, directions, guidance, you get the individual videos, the notes, all the homework assignments. They'll be in the email itself, but on Blackboard you would find all that information as well. And like I said, YouTube is of course where the videos are going to be found. Still, I'd give you the direct links, right? The direct links to each individual video in the email itself. Quick note, when I put them on Blackboard, you do have to copy and paste. It's a little problem when I actually try and insert them so that they can actually click, but in the email that normally works. But sometimes just be aware, copy and paste. You could always go to QCC Sponza under Calc 2 and look up the individual section under my playlist. But again, the direct links are certainly your easiest way. So that's our generic structure for class. Now let's get into the specifics for Calc 2. We have two syllabi. We have the department syllabi, which says Queensborough Community College across the top. I mean, notice I didn't print anything out. I'm just off my computer, same thing for you. You could print everything out. You don't have to print anything. That's entirely your choice. We're going to start with the department syllabus, which again has Queensborough Community College across the top. And then we'll finish with mine. That's the quick secondary one that has my name on the top. So this is Calc 2. The prereq is that you had a C or better in Calc 1. That's definitely important. Make sure you're in the right place. Hours, 4 class hours, 1 resuscitation hour. That's 5 hours per week. Let's start right now and talk about your schedule. General rule in college. Each 1 hour spent in class leads to 1 to 3 hours outside of class for additional study. Now that is, homework, that is going back, reviewing your notes, that is flipping through the book, going through the examples, all that counts in that extra part. So, but put that together, 5 hours in class, an additional 5 to 15 outside, 10 to 20 hours per week. That's what you should really be thinking about for this class. That's the kind of time frame you should have set up. Now, Calc is a very interesting place where we come from a lot of different backgrounds. There are students in Calc 2 who took AP Calculus in high school, and depending on exactly how far you went, you'll still be familiar with something like half of the material in Calc 2. That would definitely give you an advantage and would allow you to move through sections more quickly. Other side of that, we have students who literally started in college algebra and have been working their way up. So, we're just in completely different places, and just in general, especially when it comes to math, people's ability, like how quickly does it make sense? Does it click? Aha, that's why I'm going from one step to the next. Or I'm still not quite sure, I need more additional practice. That just varies so much from person to person. Hence, it's not that surprising that 10 to 20 hours, that's a very big open window. And there's some individual aspects that you need to find for yourself in there. Also, you may just have certain weeks where maybe you get ahead a little bit, so you're finished a little quicker, you're done in maybe under 10 hours. Other weeks, maybe you fell behind a little bit, you didn't quite finish the homework from the previous week, so you got to make up some. Some of our weeks are just a little bit busier due to the nature of where we had tests and where we are in the material. So you want to have some flexibility, but you also need to have a real schedule and know that you're going to be putting in hours per week. Again, overall, how do you spend your time? Frequency versus duration. You really don't want to just try and do this in one big block. It doesn't work. I mean, in most classes, but especially in math, the brain really gets exhausted when you try and do more than 2 hours of the same thing, and you start, losing things you did earlier, and you start getting frustrated because you're not recalling. So, I would definitely suggest keeping something like that in mind when making your schedule. Not to say I'm going to do 5 hours one day and 5 hours another day. That's going to be tough. But maybe you do want to try and set up some sort of a class structure that, all right, I want to at least watch the videos Monday and Wednesday from this time to this time, or Tuesday and Thursday, and then have other times set outside for I want to come back and do homework. So there's a lot of different structures. but you got to find something that works for you. And you don't want to be winging it from week to week. Some people, because of their work schedule, they have to be a little more flexible, but you still want to have a plan. You still want to be able to say, okay, he suggested I go through this and then get through that. Well, okay, this week I can get this part done on Tuesday and this on Thursday, and then I can get through my homework over the weekend. All that'll work. But you do need to be, again, I don't want to say consistent, but you need to have good willpower to make sure that you're keeping up week to week and that you don't fall behind. It can be very easy to kind of fall behind one week and then the next week, and then we're approaching a test and you've got weeks worth of material to catch up on. That's really, really tough, especially at the level that we are as we are in Calc 2. You know, there's background. I've already sent you information about some Calc 1 review, so I kind of hope you've at least flipped through that packet, maybe watch that first video. If not, that's definitely something you want to do after to make sure you're getting off to a good start. But overall, I mean, college in general, finding your own way, what works for you, but especially in this type of scenario, there are a lot of different ways to start and then tweak them a little bit to see what works best for you. But again, frequency. You want to come back to this multiple times. Even if you could get all the work done, say on Monday, you don't want to wait until next Monday to get to the next week's work. You're not going to remember this kind of material. There's just too many details. There's too many things that you need to be working on for that to be a successful approach. So even if you have your heavy work days earlier in the week, but then over the weekend, you know, at least the reminders, flipping through your notes, looking over some directions, right? Reviewing a problem you've already done. Maybe not doing it fresh, but just that review, that could be a really, really effective way to keep things fresh in your head as you go from week to week. And to make sure from week to week that you're not starting from step one all over again, that you're able to build from previous weeks. Because you're going to notice Calc 2 builds a lot. Things we did in Calc 1 that we add on, and then we just keep going in that direction. Calc 2, I don't want to kid you, Calc 2 is a difficult course. But now, just because it's difficult, I also don't want to scare you. We have the structure and everything in place for you to be successful, but having a good schedule is going to be a huge part of that. Okay, now let's get deeper into the schedule. A lot of specifics on schedule, but to think about what works for you. But now back to the course itself. The course description, this is a continuation of Calc 1, transcendental functions, integration by other techniques, parametric equations, infinite series, develop problem skills, construct mathematical models using Maple. Maple is a little bit tougher, folks. We're going to do some Maple. I'm not quite sure how much. Even in previous semesters, when we had a set time, trying to get people in sync online with Maple has been quite a challenge. So we'll use Maple to some extent. I'm just not quite sure exactly how much, and it won't be anything big. Anything Maple is always a boost to your grade. It's a nice tool. It's nothing that's going to be such a necessary part of like tests or anything, but it is a tool I want you to at least be a little familiar with. Curricula for which this course is required, any of the programs in liberal arts and sciences, math and science, engineering science, like anything math and science. Science, Calc 2, you're here for the discipline. Okay, maybe not for the actual calculus material itself. Even if Calc 2 is in your discipline of science, you may not be using it exactly, but it's the level of thinking. It's the problem-solving ability. It's the critical thinking. It's the analytical reasoning. It's the ability to take these abstract problems, make good decisions, and see that you're making progress. That is why you're really here. Now, for the math people, I mean, calculus is, it's one of those building blocks that just keeps growing and growing. And not that all upper level math has calculus as a building block, to kind of like the way we have algebra that calculus is built upon. It's not exactly the same, but there's a lot of techniques that come up here. The Calc 2, one of the reasons that Calc 2 is traditionally more difficult than Calc 1, it's not so set in stone. You have some very concrete blueprints you could follow in Calc 1. So even if you don't understand, you could still make good progress. Calc 2 is a little less forgiving in that way. There's a little bit more of a, I don't want to quite say trial and error, but there's some aspect to it. And you have to be able to tell for yourself that you're making good forward progress. And there's just more notation, there's more techniques that, again, get us closer to higher level math. There's, I wouldn't say proofwriting exactly, but there's kind of more nuance to problem solving than just the literal, here's a problem, solve it, x equals 2 is your answer. It's not quite that simple. So that's why you're here, everybody. You know, the general objectives, students will develop problem-solving skills, construct mathematical models. Yeah, but again, really, you're here to get your thinking to that next level. Math people need the math itself, but for so many others, it's the discipline, the thinking. That's what they want to see. You can do it in Calc 2. Now when you go to your other disciplines, you go to your advanced chemistry classes, your organic, your different types of biology, your different types of chemistry and physics. I mean, again, they really, really get tough. No matter how much you like those disciplines and the level of thinking, you'll need aspects from here to keep that level of thinking at that high level and make good progress. Next, our textbook. We use Stewart's calculus book. Mine is the instructor edition, so basically just eliminate this border and the interior. That's what your version would look like. Several things to say here. Number one, we are using the 8th edition. If you were in Calc 1 last semester and still have your book, you should have the 8th edition, and that's what we're continuing with now. I make that specific point. There is a 9th edition that is available. The Calc 1 students this semester are using the 9th edition. They're trying to do you a favor in that you already have the 8th edition, so let's just stick with the 8th edition. But if you're buying your book fresh, don't buy the 9th edition, make sure you get the 8th edition. Why do you need your book? Well, actually a couple of quick things. Number one, also notice, this is the plain calculus title. If you look up Stewart and calculus, there are a lot of editions, there's a lot of versions. Do not get the version that says early transcendentals. What that is, that's a book that incorporated the logs and the exponential functions since Calc 1. This book will introduce the log and exponential functions in Chapter 6 as a part of Calc 2. So you want your book, your homework is in your book, extra examples. As I said, just a part of advancing as a student. Maybe not reading it word for word, but using the examples, taking that as extra guidance, using that as one of those extra supplements, like I said, not always just starting fresh problems, but just flipping through, reminding yourself the topics, the questions, the nature of the problems, the nature of the work itself. That's a perfect use of this book. Just flipping through the sections. Homework, all the homework is in the book. Answers are in the back. Odd number of problems are all answered in the back. If you get stuck on the homework, of course, flipping through the videos, you should be able to find guidance and through my notes, but also the book itself. Almost every homework problem has a similar problem that they do in the section itself. So sometimes just how to get started, reminding yourself, another great use of the book. Something else with the book. As we get further along, the answers in the back become less and less helpful. It's part of the growing nature of the class. And that it's not just, do you have the right answer? And even there, sometimes do you have the right answer? You have an answer, you check the back of the book, the answer doesn't match, and you can get frustrated. And all it is, the book loves to simplify answers. Even if you don't have to, and a lot of times in your directions on your tests and quizzes, I tell you don't have to, but the book will do it anyway. So if you end up with multiple fractions as an answer, the book is going to combine those into one fraction, get a common denominator. That's just one basic example. Exponents. You leave an answer with a fractional exponent, the book converts it back to a radical exponent. So little things like that can be frustrating. You think you've got the right answer, but you don't see something that matches, and it's just a little rewrite. But then later on, as we get towards the end, kind of like the last third of the class, we get a lot of problems that simply say converge or diverge. It's almost like saying true or false. But the issue is, just saying true or false, you got a 50-50 chance of guessing correctly. The way to get the answer correct is to have all the steps that lead to why the answer is true or false. And the textbook doesn't have that. All it has is the equivalent of true or false. So all these things I'm bringing up, I highly, highly recommend, in addition to the book itself, go online, find a full solution guide. For most people, all you need to do is type in Stewart 8th edition Calculus full solution into Google and you'll get multiple hits. Most of these are free. You shouldn't have to pay for this, by the way. Most of the time, you do a little work, you could find it free. Some students, I normally just do the general search. I've had students in the past talk about the Slater website. If I remember correctly, that's Slater. I think it's T, not D. Slater.com. That is a website that you can go to that has lots and lots of textbooks, not just math, lots of textbooks. But last time I checked, which was not all that long ago, you could go to their website, type in the Stewart 8th edition, and you could get the full solutions to all problems. That'll really help out. It's great if you find it for the early part of the class. It's almost essential to have it for the second half of the class. So, textbook itself. Don't get the 9th edition, stick with the 8th edition. All the homework is from the 8th edition, and define your full solution guide. Here's the second thing, everybody. Oh, I'll include the link to our campus bookstore if you want to get the book from them. You can go elsewhere though, it's fine. Just make sure, again, Stewart 8th edition, not the transcendental copy. But the second thing I want to point out, everybody, Stewart, they just came out with the 9th edition. What's the difference from the 9th edition to the 8th? Or the 8th edition to the 7th edition? Or the 7th edition to the 6th? The honest answer is very, very little is different. Very, very little. They add an extra example here and there. They add an extra homework problem or two here or there. I remember going back a while ago looking at, I think I have the 4th edition of Stewart. One of my office mates has the 2nd edition of Stewart. And again, it's amazing how much is exactly identical to the current edition. So you want to save some money? You can get an older edition of the book. Here's the catch. The homework I give is the 8th edition. Like I said, sometimes the problems just shift a little bit. What used to be, in most math books, homework gets a little bit harder the deeper you go into the homework. So problems like 1 through 10 are fairly easy, 10 through 20 are a little harder. By the time you get to problems like 70 through 80, you're typically getting through some of the tougher. That's not always exactly the case, but it's a very common situation. So one quick thing, sometimes if you're struggling with homework and it's just the last problem or two, I like to throw those challenge problems, a challenge problem or two. And if that's the only problem you're having with the homework, you're fine. Those would be no more than a bonus problem on a test. So don't let that bother you. But if you go to the older versions, like I said, maybe they added the problem. Maybe I gave 1 through 11, and in the older edition it was 1 through 9, and 11 jumps you into the next section. I mean, you could basically follow the section. Don't do the page number because the page number would change. But go to like section 5.3, do the problems I say, and still get good homework from previous editions of Stewart. So I hope you realize what I'm saying here. I recommend using the 8th edition of the book, but if you need to save money or you already have an older edition, you could really make it work. I'm not grading or collecting your homework. We'll get to the grade in just another moment. Your grade comes from your tests and quizzes. The homework is for you to practice to make sure you are ready. Any version of Stewart would give you good homework. Okay? Okay. So that's the point of our textbook. You need it. You need some version. I mean, to be quite honest, you don't even need a Stewart version. Any calculus book has all the good stuff. But it's just a matter of, again, even OpenStax as a free source of textbooks. OpenStax, S-T-A-X. You can get all different types of free textbooks there. But again, just try and stick with the class. I definitely recommend at least a Stewart version. 8th edition is ideal. Quickly, calculators. We don't really use calculators much in this class, but a scientific calculator, there's a couple of application sections. We want to figure out, how long until the population of bacteria doubles. And, instead of saying 10 square root of 3 weeks, It'd be like, no, we'd like to know that's like approximately 17 weeks. And we need a calculator for that. But outside of those very random few sections, most of it, you're going to see, we don't use calculators for much in this class. I want to be very clear, especially when it comes to integration. We will do a lot of integrals in this class. Some of them, your definite integrals, the graphing calculator can solve, but you don't get exact answers. This is a nice way to check your answer. You will not get full credit for solving it using your calculator. Okay, so point is, you don't need a graphing calculator. You could use that as a little extra, but there's nothing that you need it for. And anything you are using your graphing calculator for that would replace something done in class, done by hand, you would actually lose a couple of points on a test. So again, my point, watch the videos, use the videos, and you'll see we don't use the graphing calculator for pretty much anything at all, and just calculators only come up occasionally. And my second point, if you have the right type of calculator, you can just get answers for antiderivatives. I mean, that's going to be a whole chapter learning higher level antiderivative techniques. I need to see work there. So again, if you have that type of calculator, I mean, Maple, that program I was talking about earlier, this would do the same thing. You could check your answers using that, but it would not give you full credit if that's all you do. So again, to be aware, I'm testing you on your techniques, not just the answer. The calculators would just give you the answer. Okay. Method by which you will be evaluated. Very simple. 60% tests and quizzes. Homework is not a part of that. Homework is for you to do to make sure you are prepared, to make sure you are understanding and doing well with the class. Your tests and quizzes will be that 60%. Whatever we do with Maple will be 10%. And even in person, that's always just a boost. That's always something where we use Maple as a little bit of a, hey, let's review this test and see what Maple, how it can make our lives easier. And that's something that is just a boost to your grade. That just participating would give you that full 10%. So that'll work out to be a boost. And that still will work out to be a boost no matter what we end up deciding for this semester. And then your final exam is cumulative and will be 30%. They make a note, the distribution may change, I'm not changing. 60% tests and quizzes, 10% Maple, a boost, and then 30% your cumulative final exam. Academic integrity policy, academic honesty is expected of all students. Don't cheat. We're not collecting papers or anything like that here, so there's no writing assignments. We don't have to be worried about that aspect. So just don't cheat, do your own work, that's all. You'll see, again, the next video, we'll talk all about testing, how that works, and we'll talk about good and bad habits, but you'll get a lot of advantages with the take-home test. So let's just use that and keep it at that. Disabilities, students who feel he or she may need an accommodation based upon the impact of disability should contact the Office of Special Services and should let me know. That's it. You let me know, we'll take care of it. Again, the testing video, I'll make quick mention of this. It doesn't quite work the same as in person, but any accommodations, we'll make sure you're well taken care of, and we take care of that. Topics, there they are. It's almost going in order in the book. Chapter 5, Chapter 6, Chapter 7, Chapter 8, Chapter 11. We're not doing much of Chapter 8. We skip Chapters 9 and 10 entirely. Chapter 11 is a big one, and that's where we finish. Overall, very quickly, tests and quizzes. I don't give, like some people, the traditional, a quiz comes before a test and a quiz is a part of a chapter and a test as a whole. I give a quiz if it's a small amount of material. I give a test if it's a large chunk of material. That's the only way I break it down. So for us, we're starting in Chapter 5. Again, we'll do some review next week. I've already got some review and, we've already lined that up. But next week, we'll also get started with Chapter 5, getting into the new material a little bit. Again, still give you some time to review, but we're also starting some fresh material. If you're really behind in the review, you want to take advantage of it over Labor Day weekend. Again, you already had the pack, you've already had some of the videos. It's perfectly fine if you just did a little bit, but especially if you feel very rusty, this is a great opportunity to get into those, to get off to a good start. But then Chapter 5, 2 sections, we have a quiz, okay? Chapter 6, we do all the chapter, then we have test number 1. Test number 1 does not include anything from Chapter 5. Quiz 1 will cover the Chapter 5 stuff. Test 1 will cover the Chapter 6 stuff. Most of Chapter 7 becomes Test 2. The very end, that last section, 7.8, and Chapter 8, those 3 sections, that'll be Quiz 2. Most of Chapter 11, I think we go 11.1 through 11.7, if I remember correctly. That's Test 3. And then sections 11.8, 11.9, and 11.10, that's Quiz 3. So we'll end up with 3 tests, 3 quizzes. That will be that 60% part of your grade. Tests are always out of 100. Quizzes are out of anything. How do you figure out your grade? It's points earned divided by points possible. You get a 30 out of 40 on the first quiz. You get a 90 out of 100 on the first test. You get a 120 out of 140. Make that a decimal, make that a percent. That's where you stand with respect in the class. Okay, so that gets us through the department syllabus. And now looking at my syllabus, this will be very quick. You've got my name. That's my office phone number. I really don't have access to my office phone, so that doesn't really help. My email address, that's huge, everybody. Email is, again, our main way to communicate. I check my email a lot. Now, not so much to the point that you send me an email, you can count on an answer 10 minutes later, but I check my email multiple times a day. As long as you're working in a good schedule, you know, within a few hours, by the next day, you'll get an answer back from me. Some students still hesitate, like, wow, email? Like, how do I send questions through email? You ask questions in email the same way you would in class. If you're in a video and you could point, you know, Mr. Sponza, at this point in the video, I'm having trouble here. Can you check this from here to here? Now, if you're trying to get me to check your homework, that's not what office hours are about. You know, we've got alternatives with the Math Help Center for that. But if you have questions, again, you email them to me. I've had students who send me emails once a week, a couple of times a week, sometimes just like a very quick point that they want to double check. Sometimes they've got some other bigger questions, some concepts that they're having trouble with. You do what you need to, and it's fine. That's, again, email is going to be very big. My official office hours, Wednesday, 3 to 6, and by appointment. But like I just said, the 3 to 6, I mean, look, this is asynchronous. You've got questions, you're working at night, you send me the questions at night, you'll get your answers, you know? That's the nature, that's how this will work. The class setup, we've already mentioned the asynchronous, that's just kind of written out, but again, we keep mentioning it. Blackboard, the information hub, you get your weekly email, basic, you know, guidance, directions, reminders, tips, along with all the videos, documents, anything that's important. But then that'll also be posted on Blackboard, so you could find it there. And again, all the videos on YouTube, QCC Sponza. And again, everything's labeled by section that goes with the Calc book. You're looking for the section 5.3, you'll find the 5.3 video. But again, I'll always send you the direct links. Just quickly on Blackboard, often you have to copy and paste. I can't embed the link. I can embed them in the emails, but definitely have to copy and paste when you're getting that information off Blackboard. Quick additional notes. Emails sent to me should be grammatically correct. Well, sort of, but let's also expand on that a little too. As I said, as you can see, email is our main form of communication. I get a lot of emails each day, each week. So a couple of quick things. Number one, please include your name in the class. Just quick, you know, maybe that's the title of your email. You know, this is Mike from Calc 2. That's all. You know, I don't need anything more of MA 442. Just Calc 2 is fine. That already kind of puts me in the right place. So I kind of already, well, what are we talking about? Where are we? And then in the email itself, make sure you're clear in what I can help you with. What's the question? What's the issue? How can I help? The issue comes up because more and more students use their smartphones for their email. So now I get emails sent to me in text type and there's no punctuation. It's like, it's not always as clear. So just, you know, this is a good time. Separate your personal and your professional contacts. Put me in the professional side. That doesn't mean you have to add a whole bunch of fluff to the email. Like I said, quick, name and class. You can literally, Mike, Calc 2. You don't need a whole fluff. Professor, oh, it's raining, what an ugly day. No. You can jump right to what you need just to help simplify the process. So we don't have to go back and forth just establishing who you are and how I can help. You say Mike, well, you Mike from my stats class, you Mike from my calc class. Like I said, just so we can immediately get to what I can do and how I can help. There are no extra credit assignments, okay? People at the end of the semester, people are unhappy with their grade. Well, number one, I really encourage you to get into good habits from the beginning, and we could tweak things along the way. Things you're not happy with how you did on the first quiz, we could work and we could still discuss that. But you want to make the adjustments. And there's no extra credit. There's no bonus assignments at the end. I mean, I may have a couple of bonus problems on an individual test, on a quiz, but there's no bonus assignments. You want to do well in the class. Where do you get your grade from? You get your grade from the material I'm giving you. So don't look for extra assignments. Do the assignments I'm already giving you in the first place. And I promise you, everybody, even though this class is tough, and I'm not guaranteeing A's, I mean, far from it, but I guarantee that if you're sticking with the class and giving real effort, you're going to get through. This is a tough class, but I give you the right guidance. I give you the right information and tools so that you can be successful. Now, again, I'm not saying it's easy. There's still a lot of your part, but it's there. You just got to make sure you're working with what is given. So don't look for extra. Use what's already there. Okay, last quick little notes on grading. Maple assignments conducted in class. Like I said, this version of class, we'll figure that out. At least 3 exams, multiple quizzes. Again, everything. It really pretty much always does work out to exactly 3 tests, 3 quizzes, all announced well in advance. Failure to contact the instructor with good reason and in a timely manner results in a 0. You know, anything. Well, again, that'll come up again in the testing submission video. What is the window? But if things come up, emergencies do. Things come up, schedules change. You know conflicts in advance. You let me know. We work it out. Things come up in the day of. You got to stay in touch with me. If it's too late, it's too late. So last little note here, good attendance is every day. Successful students will attend all class, complete all assignments. This kind of goes back to the real in-person, but translate that to the online. You're watching the videos, you're doing the homework, you're going back and doing good review. Those are the keys and you will be successful. Now there's one last little thing for you guys, and then we'll get to, again, the video that goes all into the testing. Outside resources. I'm going to mention this quickly in the testing video, that basically you should try and stay in the confines of what I'm giving you. Use that first. And then outside of that, we'll quickly mention the Help Center. But for you guys, because again, Calc 2 is tough, there are 2 good resources that if you really want something extra that I can recommend. And the reason I could recommend them is because they're both made by Queensborough professors, so they completely line up with our book. One of the problems that people get into in Calc 2 is that they're using techniques that have not been discovered, not discovered, that we haven't covered yet. You're going above and beyond. And I don't mean above and beyond in a good way. You're going outside what you should know. In person, that doesn't come up. So we got to try and have some way to balance that on this online situation as well. So that's where, again, I'm testing you on what we've covered. It's not just getting the right answers. Can you solve this integral? Well, you typed it in your calculator and it spit out the right answer. That's garbage. That gets you very little points. I want to see the techniques. And if you're using techniques that we haven't covered yet, you'll get some points, but you're not going to get full points. So again, outside resources, how do you know they're not going above and beyond? Well, number one, if you're sticking with the videos itself, it should be clear, like, wait a second, we never talked about that. That's not that the other source is wrong, it's that they're using something you didn't learn yet. That's the way to interpret that. But so what are outside resources to make sure that doesn't happen? Again, the 2 things. I'm going to give you Dr. Bob a link to his videos. He's been doing, way before the pandemic, he's been making online videos. And he links them very nicely by topic. So if you're struggling in a topic or you just want a little more, even if you don't like his explanation, the fact that you have fully worked out problems, that you could look, people want more. How do I know I'm on the right track? You can go to his videos, see a problem. You could go through it, try doing it yourself first if you want, and then go through his explanation, or just jump to his answer and you could see it all written out. And I promise you that Dr. Bob and I, even if we have subtle differences, it's close enough that you would never get in trouble, that you're doing too much above and beyond what we already know. The second is Dr. Yi. He has also done something similar, but it's not an online video source, it's additional problems. Additional problems that go right with our book with full solutions. So again, I think for most students, you watch my videos, you do the homework I assign, and you go back and review. Doesn't mean you have to do more problems, just reviewing the problems in the book, reviewing the problems from the videos, from the homework, and you're in a good spot. But some students, they'd like that extra. So those would be two things. And in that initial email, I've got their information at the bottom. I've got the link to Dr. Yi's book, and I believe for Dr. Bob, I give you the link to his Calc playlist, because again, he's got a lot of videos from a lot of different disciplines. So those are good outside resources. Okay, so that takes care of everything for this video. Make sure you get into that third video and start looking into our testing situations.